All-Star break. Now this week, here's a few hitters I look to add at the All-Star break now. First hitter, Michael Tiglia of the Colorado Rockies. So Tiglia is pretty much an all-or-nothing power hitter this season for the Rockies. And he's having monster power numbers, 16 home runs, 34 RBIs, 27 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, a 200 batting average, and a 250 on base. So the switch in Tiglia definitely has some monster power. And in only 173 at-bats, he has 16 home runs for this Colorado Rocky team. And over the last 2 weeks here, he's on a tear, 7 home runs in the time, 11 RBIs, 8 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, a 190 batting average, and a 300 on-base percentage. So right now, available in 93% of fantasy leagues. Here's Tiglia. Qualifies at first in the outfield. And like I said, this Rocky team, they're going nowhere this year, 25-plus games under 500. And to have a young player like this at least showing some pop, even though batting average has been an issue for him all season. He's definitely a hot ad this week, coming off a 3-homer game. July 10th at the Reds, 0 for 4. July 11th at the Reds, 1 for 2, a homer, 2 RBIs. July 12th at the Mets, 1 for 4, a homer, 2 RBIs. July 13th at the Mets, 0 for 4. And July 14th, the monster ball game at the Mets, 3 for 4, 3 home runs, and 3 RBIs. If you're looking for some pop and a young player who's getting an opportunity right now, Tiglia is a great ad this week. The next hitter, Lawrence Butler, the Oakland Athletics. So Butler coming off a 3-home run game as well. And he's been getting an opportunity of late for this Oakland Athletic team. Another player where he's got 9 home runs on the season and 175 at-bats on the year. 9 home runs, 25 RBIs, 20 runs scored, 6 stolen bases, a 210 batting average, and a 292 on-base percentage. In the last couple weeks here for Butler, has been on a tear. 7 home runs, 17 RBIs, 10 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, a 305 batting average, and a 342 on-base percentage. So right now, he's available as well in tons of leagues in 94%, and he's getting an opportunity early in this Oakland Athletic lineup. July 10th at Boston, 2 for 3, 2 RBIs, a stolen base. July 11th at Boston, 0 for 4. July 12th at Philly, pinch hit, 2-run homer in that one. July 13th at Philly, 0 for 3. And July 14th at Philly, 3 for 6, 3 home runs, 6 RBIs. So young players getting opportunities for these teams in Colorado and Oakland, where they're not going anywhere, obviously, this season. And that's looking what they have for the future. So right now, Tiglia and Butler are big pickups this week, and I think they can help fantasy owners. These guys are getting opportunities. I know it could be fluky coming off of big power games with 3 home runs, but definitely these guys got pop, and they can help fantasy owners, I believe, as the season goes on. The next hitter, Eugenio Suarez of the Arizona Diamondbacks. So Eugenio Suarez, he's been heating up of late for this Diamondback team, where he was a big acquisition in the offseason, even though he hasn't done much until late on the season. 10 home runs, 48 RBIs, 39 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, a 211 average, and a 298 on base. Suarez, we know he's had a couple 40-plus home run seasons in his career. Last season, a nice 22 and 96 with the Mariners, and the Diamondbacks acquired him to get pop in this lineup, and over the last couple weeks, he's definitely paid dividends for them. 4 home runs, 16 RBIs, 11 runs scored, a 300 average, and a 404 on base. So Suarez, he's starting to find his footing halfway through the season in his first year with this Arizona Diamondback team. And this Diamondback team of late, they're starting to get things going and move up the standings in the wild card. July 10th versus Atlanta, 2 for 4, a homer, 3 RBIs, 2 runs scored. July 11th versus Atlanta, 1 for 2, a homer, rib in that one. July 12th versus Toronto, 0 for 3, a run. July 13th versus Toronto, 2 for 5, a homer, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored. And July 14th versus the Jays in that one, 1 for 3, a run, 2 RBIs. So right now, Suarez, obviously third base. If you need some pop and someone who could get hot, especially in these hot summer months down there in Arizona, where the weather is over 100 degrees at times. I know they play indoors. Suarez is starting to get things going and more comfortable. The next hitter, Tyler Stevenson of the Cincinnati Reds. So Stevenson's been getting it going over the last couple weeks here for the Cincinnati Red team. Right now, he's available in tons of leagues, is Stevenson right now. 77% on the year, 10 home runs, 34 RBIs, a stolen base, 37 runs scored, a 244 average, and a 314 on base. But over the last couple weeks for Stevenson, he's been getting it going. 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, 8 runs scored, a 262 average, and a 295 on base. As Stevenson's starting to show some pop. Last season, he showed some flashes. And the year before that, he had a good year as well. So as of late, In the last week alone, he's got 4 homers. July 9th versus the Rockies, 3 for 5, a homer, 2 RBIs, 3 runs scored. July 10th versus the Rockies, 2 for 4, a homer, a rib. July 11th versus the Rockies, a monster game, 2 for 5, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 2 runs scored. July 12th versus the Marlins, 0 for 4. July 13th versus the Marlins, 1 for 4 run. And July 14th versus the Marlins, 1 for 3. So right now, Stevenson showing power. He's definitely got that batting average up over the last couple weeks here. And now we're catching not a great position in fantasy baseball. While Stevenson's playing good, he's a pickup this week. I'm not saying these guys are going to keep it up, but this is how you work the waiver wire. You pick up the hot hand and see if they could carry it over for a few weeks or even the whole season if you get lucky. And that's exactly what the case has been with these players. Next is Luis Garcia of the Washington Nationals. So Garcia's been a hot pickup over the last couple weeks. He's bumped up 18% owned in the last few weeks and only available now in 52% of fantasy leagues. So he closed down the first half of the year with a strong last month on the year. 11 home runs, 45 RBIs, 12 stolen bases, 34 runs scored, a 281 average, and a 313 on base. But the last month, like I mentioned, 6 home runs, 17 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 15 runs scored, a 309 average, and a 330 on base. And to dig deeper into the stats, the last 2 weeks, 4 home runs, 9 RBIs, a stolen base, 9 runs scored, a 378 average, and a 404 on base. So he's going out there and he's providing good pop for this Washington National team. And we know second base is a weak position in fantasy baseball as well, which really can help fantasy owners. July 11th at the Mets, 1 for 4. July 12th at the Brewers, 1 for 4 run. July 13th at the Brewers, 2 for 2, a homer, an RBI, 2 runs scored. So like I mentioned, he finished off strong the first half of the season. I know he's nursing a little shoulder injury, but the next few days off here definitely can help Garcia, and he's going to get playing time. Last season, he was a full-time player with this Washington National team, and this season as well, he's been a full-time player, especially producing over the last month of the season. So right now, while he's only out there in 52% of fantasy leagues, he's an ad this week. The next hitter, Max Schumann of the Oakland Athletics. So this A team, I know they're a bad team, but they got some players that could go out there and hit the baseball at least. Brent Rooker's having a great year. Shea Langoliers, he's showing pop this season. Obviously, Lawrence Butler, who I mentioned earlier in the video. Zach Gallo, if he's getting it going of late. And now Max Schumann of late playing good. He qualifies at second, short, and outfield. So good versatility and definitely help fantasy owners on the season. 5 home runs, 20 RBIs, 36 runs scored, 9 stolen bases, a 241 average, and a 333 on base. But the last couple weeks, he's been red hot. 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 4 stolen bases, 7 runs scored, a 333 average, and a 450 on base. So Schumann, he's only been up the last month and change for this Oakland Athletic team, and he's getting the everyday job, batting ninth in the lineup. July 10th at Boston, 2 for 4, 2 runs, a stolen base. July 11th at Boston, 1 for 4. July 12th at Philly, 1 for 3, 2 runs scored. July 13th at Philly, 0 for 4. And July 14th in a monster 18-3 victory for Oakland, 2 for 4 with 3 runs scored. So he's going to bring runs scored. He's going to bring stolen bases, maybe a decent batting average, but the versatility is the big part here for Schumann. And right now available in tons of fantasy leagues here at 86%. So right now we'll see if he can keep it up, but he's been a hot pickup this week. Going into the week, he was 1% owned, and now he bumped up to 14. Next hitter, Jake Burger of the Miami Marlins. Jake Burger last season, a monster year with the 34 home runs, but the power has definitely gone down this season. But the last couple weeks, he's starting to get that average up and showing some pop. On the year for Burger, 10 home runs, 35 RBIs, 29 runs scored, a 225 average, and a 265 on base. Right now available in 58% of fantasy leagues. In the last 2 weeks, 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, 5 runs scored, a 267 average, and a 313 on base. A Burger starting to get that average up. He had a big game July 13th where he had 4 hits in that one. That definitely boosted him up. And Burger, once again, I believe at the deadline, could be traded, and he qualifies at first and third. July 10th at Houston, 0 for 4. July 11th at Houston, 1 for 4. July 13th at Cincinnati, 4 for 5. And that one, a homer, 4 RBIs, 2 runs scored. And July 14th at the Reds, 1 for 4 with a run. So I think a contender team obviously could go out there and make a deal for Jake Burger and either plug him in at first, third, or the DH position. And he's got good pop, like I mentioned. I know this season the numbers are down, but there's no one in that Marlin lineup that's going to get him good pitches to hit, where teams are pitching him carefully and a lot of off-speed stuff. So right now, with the possibility of Berger getting traded, he's an ad this week. The next hitter, Harrison Bader of the New York Mets. So Bader's had a pretty decent season in his first year with the Mets. His batting average has gone up a lot over the last couple weeks, and on the year, 8 home runs, 36 RBIs, 13 stolen bases, 39 runs scored, a 277 average and a 317 on base. But the last 2 weeks for Bader, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 8 runs scored, a 324 average and a 333 on base. I know Harrison Bader, he's never been a big power hitter, obviously, in his major league career, or batting average guy at all, where more stolen bases, runs scored, and one of the best defending center fielders in all Major League Baseball is what Bader's been doing. But this New York Met team in the last few weeks here, they've been averaging 6-7 runs per game, so they're putting points on the board, no doubt about it. But they've had a very easy schedule of late with the Nationals, the Pirates, the Nationals again, and the Rockies, some of the worst teams in all Major League Baseball. And Bader's taking advantage of that. July 9th versus the Nats, 3 for 4, 2 runs. July 10th versus the Nats, 0 for 4. July 11th versus the Nats, 1 for 4, an RBI. July 12th versus the Rockies, 2 for 4, 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, 2 runs scored. July 13th versus the Rockies, 0 for 1. And July 14th versus the Rockies, 0 for 4. So Bader, he's showing some power. He's got that batting average way up over the last month of the season. And right now, while he's available in tons of fantasy leagues here, is Bader in 83%. I would give him an ad this week. The next hitter, Kobe Mayo, Baltimore Orioles. So Mayo right now available in 86% of fantasy leagues, and he's one of the best hitters in all the minor leagues. The number 15 prospect in all Major League Baseball, the number 3 prospect in this Baltimore Orioles system. And I know this Oriole team, they don't have places to play Mayo unless he takes Ryan Mountcastle's place or Ryan O'Hearn at the first base spot. We know Hestor Kjerstad went on the injured list, but right now Mayo's tearing it up in AAA for the Norfolk Tides. 22 home runs, 62 RBIs, 54 runs scored, a 309 average, and a 390 on base. So he's done it all in the minor leagues. Career minor leagues, he's had 1,346 at-bats, 79 homers, 271 RBIs, 24 stolen bases, a 285 average, and a 385 on base. So Mayo's done everything you can in the minor leagues. I know he's 22 years old, but this Baltimore team, if they can't make a deal with the deadline, I've said this in my prospect video last week, I think Mayo's going to get the call and they're going to find somewhere to play him because, like I said, he could play some first base, and obviously his main position is third base. So right now, he's out there in 86% of fantasy leagues, and if he comes up and gets an everyday opportunity, I think he's going to fit right in for this Baltimore Oriole team, and he can help fantasy owners in a big way. And the final hitter I looked at off the wire this week, Angel Martinez of the Cleveland Guardians. So a super utility man, second, third, short, and outfield he qualifies as Martinez in fantasy baseball, and he's available in 88% of fantasy leagues on the season. 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, 6 runs scored, a 256 average, and a 373 on base percentage. So far, Martinez, he's gone out there, he's played good baseball, but he's only been up a few weeks, obviously, with only 47 at-bats on the year for this Cleveland Guardian team. But like I said, he's batting second in the lineup, plays pretty much every position besides first base and catcher, which obviously helps a lot in fantasy baseball. July 10th at Detroit, 1 for 4, 2 RBIs. July 11th at Detroit, 0 for 4. July 12th at Tampa, 0 for 4 in that one. July 13th at Tampa, 1 for 5, a homer, a rib. And July 14th at Tampa, 2 for 4. So if you need some utility and more of a player in deeper leagues, I think Angel Martinez can help fantasy owners in a good way, where he could go out there and he can hit the baseball at a good rate. He's showing some average early on, showing a little pop as well with 2 home runs and 47 at-bats. And he's going to score runs, and he's a table setter at top of the lineup as well for this Guardian team with Steven Kwan. So right now, while Martinez, he hasn't been a big-time prospect, obviously, in the minors, but someone that can bring speed, run scored, and show some power with good versatility, I think, is a decent ad this week. So that's a few hitters I looked at. All-Star break this week